Good morning, everybody. This is Shivani Satija from the Institute for Human Development, New Delhi, and I will be presenting on the topic of safe and ethical research in violent contexts. This presentation attempts to discuss some ethical concerns in contexts that are characterized by conflict and violence. This entails researchers dealing with sensitive and often political issues that stand to have serious implications both for the researchers as well as the researched. What are the ethical concerns and dilemmas that researchers deal with? How difficult is it to implement ethical guidelines? And is there something called researcher's instinct? The presentation will be covering the following themes. I will begin with discussing the philosophical foundations of ethics. This will be followed by a discussion on the historical development of ethics in research. I will then be talking about the theory and practice of ethics in research, followed by balancing ethical concerns and practical constraints. I will then quickly discuss some crucial dilemmas that a researcher faces on the ground and a little bit about the way ahead. Ethics have a very important place in social research, and these often have very strong philosophical foundations. Plato, for instance, talked of the greater good, while utilitarian thinkers spoke of the good of the largest number. Not only do these notions have tyrannical potential, but are also deeply political in nature. In contrast, Kant believed in means justifying the ends and treating humanity as an end in itself, thus holding human values as supreme. Ross spoke of the relativity of moral notions and that these were situational. Certain ethical duties could outweigh moral beliefs. It can be seen that the ethical considerations that govern a researcher today have traversed through these philosophical positionings and are still being mold-enhanced. Looking at the historical development of ethics in research, the aftermath of the Second World War laid the foundation and rationale for ethics in research, particularly after the revelation of the Nazi medical experiments during the Nuremberg trials. Other studies which raised ethical concerns were the Stanford Prison Experiment, Stanley Milgram's Obedience Compliance Experiment, and the Tuskegee Syphilis Study. These also helped shape the current ethical framework guiding human subject research today. There are two models of ethical behavior that have come to govern research. These are institutional ethics, followed by the institutional review boards, and critical ethics that are followed by feminists, Marxists, and subaltern theorists. Both approach ethical questions from different perspectives, but recommend that research be carried out within the human rights framework characterized by voluntary participation, informed consent, confidentiality, and beneficence. However, there is a debate regarding human rights looking at individual and collective perceptions. Within the developing country context particularly, notions of collective identity are very strong and often collide with the individualistic notions of human rights. This debate is regarding the ethnocentrism and ethical rules of anthropological research and contextualization of ethics, and these need to be discussed as well. In short, the notions of ethics are in a state of flux, yet certain principles are universally accepted. These are informed and voluntary consent, anonymity and confidentiality, voluntary participation, freedom to withdraw participation at any point of the research process, ensuring safety of the participant, and doing no harm. This presentation will address these and discuss the challenges in implementing these theoretical principles. There is always a question of theory and actual implementation. To what extent can ethical guidelines be implemented on the ground? To what extent can they be bent to suit the research context and to ensure safety of the researcher and the respondents? In a situation of a dilemma, what should the researcher do? Is there something called a researcher's instinct? Exercising sound judgment under extreme physical and mental conditions is important and requires intellectual and emotional strength on part of the researcher. There are many dilemmas in the field. For instance, there may be a need to maintain a balance between revealing full information about the researcher as well as the research, while withholding parts of the information because it might put the researcher or the respondent in harm's way. This dilemma comes up especially when one is working with marginalized groups or exploited persons, as well as to those in authority. Whose side is the researcher on, and whose protection of information does he or she privilege? How does one balance transparency while withholding parts of the information? That is to say, this is especially relevant while negotiating access with gatekeepers such as those in authority. How much information should be provided to them? Security of sensitive data is also imperative because if it were to fall in the hands of the military or the rebel parties, it could be misused, thus endangering the lives of the people involved. While dealing with survivors of violence, there is always a risk of re-traumatizing them. How does a researcher deal with this? How should that experience be addressed? Should it be addressed directly or indirectly? How much time should be allowed to lapse before addressing that particular violent incident? If the survivor is a child and one has obtained the guardian's consent, then what do we make about the child's consent? There is a need to respect degrees of consent as well. Like for instance, the survivor agrees to participate in the research but does not want to address the incident directly. Then indirect ways need to emerge on the spot. Responsibility of representation arises when one is researching marginalized and vulnerable communities. The researcher is responsible and has to ensure that the voices on the ground are fairly and accurately represented. Personal biases are very difficult to deal with, especially when one is dealing with a group whose principles the researcher might strongly disagree or agree with. For instance, while researching perpetrators of violent crimes, the researcher needs to engage in a lot of introspection, as this can cause a lot of personal stress. Similarly, while dealing with survivors of rape or genocide, the researcher needs to maintain emotional dignity and mature understanding. This is not to say that the researcher should not express emotions. In fact, it might be critical to be empathetic while dealing with sensitive issues. How can then one remain unbiased? It may be important to balance emotions with practicality, but having a biased opinion could be something that is very difficult to avoid. How does a researcher balance research objectives with the hopes and expectations of the respondents? The researcher needs to ensure that he or she is not there to solve their problems, merely to discuss them and bring them out. Does the contact with the community get severed or remain intact after the researcher leaves the field? For instance, if there is some conflict or trouble in the community and the researcher is called upon, how should she or he handle it? Not acting positively will harm the trust that has been cultivated. However, if one acts, it could be taken as a biased or political act that could bring personal harm as well as harm to the research. The need to act in a balanced manner then becomes very crucial. A subsequent concern might arise when the researcher leaves the field, which she or he has influenced or touched in some way during the research. This influence could range from stirring emotions that may have either been suppressed or ignored formally, which could then produce effects that might be positive or negative. Feedback is also an essential component of primary research and goes a long way in maintaining trust among the community. Sharing of findings and obtaining their feedback not only makes the respondents important stakeholders in the research, but also makes practice of research less extractive and more inclusive. The biggest concern might be that of adding to the current levels of violence and doing some harm. However, doing some good is also important, and this places an enormous responsibility and pressure on the researcher. Doing some good could range from providing the community with information and access to stakeholders that could help them rather than getting personally involved. There are some crucial ethical dilemmas. Sometimes the researcher may feel torn between an ethical commitment towards their research and a moral obligation towards their research participants. The unavoidable sense of guilt, particularly survivor's guilt, has been depicted by Bourgeois, which he experienced as a young researcher in El Salvador while escaping with the civilians who were fleeing the military's attacks. Certain decisions made by him that arose from an instinctive urge to save his own life left a feeling of guilt for those left behind. Not being able to intervene to prevent some violent situations is one of the biggest and most painful ethical dilemmas in research. The issue of trust is crucial, and in areas undergoing violence, maintaining this trust of the participant is essential. But what happens when one is dealing with a respondent who intends to perpetrate violence and has confided in the researcher? Or what if a child who is a victim of sexual abuse confides in the researcher about his or her abuser? In that case, the researcher needs to exercise ethical priority and do what is instinctively right for the people concerned. The important consideration then is to exercise practicality and ensure one's actions does not cause more harm. Several times at the dissemination stage, publishers and think tanks might demand draft documents for verification, and this can put the researcher in an ethical dilemma as it involves the risk of having the respondents' names, which are often present in the draft, even if coded, being leaked. Wood mentions the ethical and practical concerns about publishing post-research findings, as this could have the potential of disrupting the country's political stability or impacting possible ongoing peace processes. The researcher may be caught between the conflictual obligations of protecting the respondents from the risk of violent reprisals and demanding findings, which could promote justice and reconciliation. An ethical dilemma is one when the researcher experiences conflict that cannot be addressed clearly by one's own moral principles or the established ethical codes. Research in a tense atmosphere characterized by violence perpetrated against innocent people is bound to stir some emotions and cultivate opinions within the researcher. Dealing with these then becomes a very difficult emotional exercise. There is no black or white in violent and volatile situations, and blind adherence to institutionalized ethical norms are not always useful or productive. The researcher does not always have control over the research process, which is an organic one, and therefore the researcher often needs to make a call based on personal instinct. What is the way ahead? There are some points that I have brought in, and I hope that some more will be generated during the webinar. It can be said then that the code of ethics, while researching sensitive topics, is still evolving and redefining itself. There is thus a crucial need to carve some more ethical guidelines based on empirical research in sensitive areas across developing country contexts. This can be done through sharing of research experience and lessons learned on the field in different cultural contexts. I hope this presentation has thrown up some issues for discussion and debate. I look forward to hearing other presentations and participating in the discussion. Thank you very much.